Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and today is day 66 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and celebrating myself. So, yay for day 66. I realize this is a day late, um, probably because of what I chose to celebrate. I chose to celebrate anxiety, not something I would think most people would want to celebrate having anxiety. I can't really say that I want to celebrate having anxiety, but I think it's made me very, very grateful to know that the first 60 or so days I celebrated, most of the days, not every day, I celebrated things that I found that I like about myself and positive traits that I have in myself. And I've noticed with the last day and today and all of those things that God is pointing out things about myself that I don't necessarily like, or character traits that I have, or things that I have to deal with that I don't necessarily like. But I think in celebrating myself, it requires me to celebrate all the parts of myself. Just like when you love someone, you love them, you love their imperfections, you love everything about them. And of course, you focus on the positive traits and the other things, and you help them work on the things that aren't so positive, or things that they struggle with if they're willing to work on it. Otherwise, you just accept it as it's kind of a quirk, and that's just how that person is. So there are things about me that I simply have to accept about myself, like having anxiety. Um, so I have anxiety. I get panic attacks. I freak out, and sometimes my anxiety prevents me from sleeping because I'm just too anxious. I can't seem to turn my brain off. Um, but I know, I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I'm not some kind of a scholar person, um, but I'm pretty sure that anxiety is one of those things that everybody has a little bit of, as kind of a protection thing, a warning that there's something to be anxious about, nervous about, excited about, um, whatever it is. The problem is that mine goes to the extreme. So I was trying to think of some kind of analogy, and I was thinking of like those pressure gauges for things, where if it's in the green, they show them on TV. I don't actually have one of those, but I'm like, if it's in the green, it's okay. It's fine. If it's in the yellow, that's a little bit of caution, whatever. If it's in the red, you know, you're in trouble. And if it's in the black, you're dead, right? Um, like radiation things or something. I don't know. Um, but I know, like for my asthma, I have one of those things that you blow in to see like where your air levels are at. And again, green is fine. Yellow is iffy. Maybe use an inhaler. Red, you definitely need an inhaler, maybe a nebulizer. If it stays in the red, you need to go to the emergency room. So, life threatening. So my anxiety, when it kicks in, it decides that it's in the red. It hits the panic attack button. We're in the red. We're, life threatening situation. I'm not in a life threatening situation. I know I'm not in a life threatening situation, but once that button is hit, my whole nervous system goes crazy, and I can't stop shaking. I can't control the panic attacks. I can't do any of those things. And the last few days, my anxiety levels have been in the yellow. Like there's caution, something dangerous is about to happen. Caution, we can't sleep. There's too much going on. We have to figure out all of this stuff right this second. And it's like, can't decide if it wants to go all the way to the red, or we're going to have a full blown panic attack, or if we're just going to be, shaking, nervous, having way too much energy. But on the positive side of this, I have learned that anxiety can also be a call to action, something to um, put my energy towards. Because I know when I get angry or irritated, I will clean. That's probably the only time that I will clean. Seriously. I'm like, oh. I think there was one time my ex and I was like cleaning the kitchen and doing dishes on my break from work, and he was like, "Are you mad?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "Okay." Like he could tell. I was like, because I don't do that. So I do that. Making myself clean other times is not as easy, but it gives me something to, vent my frustration on. So I'm learning I can do the same thing with my anxiety. If I can't sleep, I try to play games or things to calm myself down, watch cartoons, read something to um, occupy my brain, to change my thought processes, to change my focus, to try to get my nervous system to calm down. And sometimes those things work, and sometimes it doesn't. But if I'm using the extra energy, the extra adrenaline that for whatever crazy reason my body thinks that I need to have because my anxiety is yellow, pushing the red, and to keep it out of the red, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do some dishes, I'm gonna do some laundry, I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna do something with this energy. I also know that when I choose to write in my journal, it gets a lot of the it helps me to see a lot of the thought processes behind things. It helps to just get a lot of that stuff out of my nervous system, something about that process of thinking and writing and letting go. It just gets a lot of that energy out of my system. And it just makes me very grateful that God has given me tools in which to deal with my anxiety, tools that actually help me to feel better, to process things like journaling, or tools in which to clean, even though I don't like to. So even though I don't necessarily like having anxiety, it is something that I live with. And I do take that DDR prime. It does help keep it in the yellow, which is why it's in the yellow and not full blown panic attack, which I am grateful for. And when it's would normally be in the yellow, that medication keeps it, in the green. I can actually live a daily life without being anxious. It's amazing. So I can't do it every day, but I have tools that I can use to help balance it, to help control it, because mind thoughts, processes, telling myself that I'm perfectly okay does not stop my nervous system from panicking, freaking out, sending a whole bunch of adrenaline, shaking, crying, freaking out. It's that whole fight or flight thing, and I'm frozen. So I've got all of this pent up adrenaline and energy, and I'm like, I can't move, I can't move, I can't move. I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die. None of those things are actually true. That's just what the alarm system in my brain is setting off. And it's like, where the heck is that trigger button? Where the heck is the off button, the cancel the alarm button? I am still trying to learn where that sucker is, because I would love to just break it so it can't ever come back on again. But I know it's also a tool that's meant to alert me if there actually is real danger, if there actually is a real problem, if there actually is a real concern to not do things. So there's a reason for it. It's just that one of many things in my body, the settings are off. And it's probably due to the environment that I grew up in and the amount of times that that went off in my life, that it's just kind of like, it's very sensitive trigger button. It doesn't take much to set it off. And even if I know that I'm perfectly safe and it has nothing to do with me, that once that trigger button has gone off or been pushed, it's like I'm still learning where the off button is, to cancel the alarm. Turn off the alarm. You pull a fire drill, a fire alarms, there's a button, a switch somewhere that they can go and turn off the alarm system so it doesn't keep blaring incessantly forever. But getting to that, finding that can be very difficult, especially in the middle of a full-blown panic attack. So grateful I'm not having full-blown panic attack, not enjoying the anxiety, but grateful that I have tools to deal with it. Grateful that I have friends and family that are patient and understanding with me when I have my little anxiety panic attacks, and grateful that I'm learning that I can put it to use. I can go to work, I can clean, I can read, I can write, I can watch cartoons, I can do things to calm my body down, to calm myself down, to allow my nervous system to recognize that it is safe and it is okay, because otherwise it will not let me sleep, which can be really annoying and very frustrating as well. So, and I will admit that I do not always use my tools. I have them, but sometimes I do let the anxiety get the better of me. I don't sleep because I know that I'm feeling a little bit anxious, and rather than dealing with the anxiety, I will avoid it. I will play games. I will watch cartoons. I will, avoid it. And then I don't want to go to sleep because I know as soon as I try to go to sleep, my anxiety is going to take over. And I'm like, and now I can't sleep. I'm like wide awake, even though I'm super tired because I'm freaking out about nothing. So the saga of my life, right? But in celebrating myself, it is something to celebrate. And if nothing else, it helps me to celebrate the fact that I have tools to deal with this, that I have, that God is aware of this struggle that I have in my life. And like I said, I can do things like clean. I can do things like read my scriptures and journal, call a friend, make a video, whatever it is. And sometimes just facing the things that I'm afraid of, because facing it, dealing with it, helps me to see that it's not so scary, and it allows my body to relax. Because it is also one of those things that builds up, if there's something new coming up. If I'm going to go on a hike with some friends, or if I'm going to start school or start a new job or whatever it is, something new that I'm going to do, my anxiety just, it goes, and I can't sleep because I made it that one time. I went to bed at like 9-10 o'clock at night. This was years ago, and there was like a church activity, a bunch of singles, and we were all going on a hike at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, crap, on a Saturday, I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to be ready at 7. I probably slept like 3 hours that night, if I slept at all, because I kept checking the time. I kept rolling over because I was just and then I was so tired on the hike. I was so tired. Because once I was out there and I was hiking, and I'm like, okay, this is fun, this is cool, I'm okay, everything's okay. Then the anxiety just went away, and I was calm, and then my body's like, and now we need to sleep because we didn't sleep last night. And I'm like, this is not how this works, because you need energy to hike. So this just sucks. It does that to me, the first day of school. Every time I started school, it would be like, we can't sleep because we're starting something new. But then I would go, and then it would be okay. And then the more I go, the more okay it is, the more my body calms down, it relaxes, like, we can do this. But then it decides, randomly in the middle of the class or the middle of the day, that I'm like, we're calm now. And then all of a sudden, the tired and all the other stuff that, gets pushed to the wayside when the anxiety takes over. It's like, and now we can sleep. And I'm like, that is me with my my anxiety. But again, it is just a reminder that facing the things that I fear and showing myself and my body that it's okay helps to eliminate the anxiety. Sometimes if it doesn't feel like it's okay when I'm doing it, it gets worse. Or sometimes the anxiety makes it feel like it's not okay, even though it is okay. So it's a balancing game. It's it's a test. It is something that I live with, but it is also something to recognize in myself, to celebrate the fact that I'm aware of these things in my body, in my life, to be grateful for the tools that I have, and to just be able to accept that I have anxiety, and sometimes it will prevent me from going to social functions. It will prevent me from sleeping. It will prevent me from feeling like I'm living a normal life. But then again, there's the realization that I don't think anybody actually lives a normal life. I've heard that stupid joke that normal is just a setting on a washing machine. I'm not even sure it's a setting on a washing machine anymore, to be honest. They keep changing everything. And then there's all the talk of the new normal, because normal always changes. There is no normal. It's whatever society deems is acceptable that is considered normal. But not everybody agrees with what society says is normal. And you go to different countries or different cities or different states, and their idea of what's normal is completely different. So basically, normal is judging yourself off of other people and what they think is acceptable. And I'm like, okay, if I do all the stuff that they say is acceptable, then I'm normal. So I hate the idea of being normal. So the fact that I don't live a normal life is perfectly fine with me. And I also know that I am not the only person in the world that lives with anxiety, that has random panic attacks, that has to take medication to try to control it, that has to find other avenues and ways to work around my anxiety, to still feel like I can function in society or just function in life, learn to enjoy life in spite of my anxieties. I also think in celebrating that I have anxiety is another form of strength for me to recognize the things that I have overcome in my life or the things that I can work around and do, which doesn't necessarily make me superior to other people, but it's like, hey, I live my life with this and I can still go out, I can be around people, I can do all of these things, and I'm doing all of this with all this underlying stuff that the rest of the world doesn't even know I'm dealing with. So I think that's pretty amazing for me to see that I can live with anxiety, that I can function, that I don't have to tell people every day all the time when I'm dealing with my anxiety. I think that is something to celebrate in seeing the things that I have overcome in my life and seeing the things that I deal with on a daily basis and recognizing all the things I still accomplish in spite of having anxiety in my life. And I think that makes the things that I accomplish a little bit more meaningful when I look at it that way. And it helps me feel like I'm doing a lot better than I give myself credit for because I don't always give myself credit for the things that I'm overcoming, or I don't have compassion for the things I'm dealing with, or I use the things I'm dealing with as an excuse not to accomplish things. And I forget that when I actually accomplish things, that's amazing because I have done it in spite of all of these things, in spite of having anxiety. I still clean my kitchen. I still go to work. I still do things. I'm still making these videos. So, and in spite of my anxiety, honestly, when I first started doing these videos, those 100 days of gratitude, I'm like, I'm seriously shaking, anxious anxiety. And I don't know, somewhere in the middle of, towards the end of doing the gratitude videos, or maybe somewhere in the middle of doing my 100 days of writing videos, or my today videos, probably doing my 100 videos of today videos, but somewhere in all of that, I don't get anxious to make my videos anymore. I'm not having an anxiety attack every time I make these videos. So in spite of my anxiety, with God's help, of course, I have been able to do these videos, and I am very grateful for that. So it's just another thing to celebrate, another thing to remember that I have overcome and I can do in spite of having anxiety. And it is not one of those things, I don't know if it's considered a disability in the world, if it's one of those things you can get disability payments or something for. But it hasn't turned into some kind of huge phobia. It hasn't prevented me from living my life. I mean, I have my days where I don't feel like I can function because of it. But I think I have more days that I feel like I'm functioning and that I'm doing the things that I want to do in spite of my anxiety. So I think that's just a reminder to me in celebrating anxiety that I can do a lot of things with anxiety, and that my anxiety doesn't always have to take over. Granted, like I said, there are those days that I cannot get it to calm down. There are those days it goes into the red and turns into a panic attack. And there's just like, not a whole lot I can do with that. But I am grateful for the medication that kind of keeps it from going into full-blown panic attacks, and for the reminder of all the things that I can do to do with the extra adrenaline and energy, because I can't always get rid of it, or the tools that I have to calm myself down. So grateful for that. Also frustrated with it, like I said, especially when I can't sleep, because I can do all the stuff during the day and that's awesome, but getting myself to sleep when I'm having anxiety is nearly impossible, which is extremely frustrating because then I just have to live a very tired life. But that's something I've been dealing with my whole life probably. So such is life. Learning to live with the things that I have. So anyway, that is what I have on anxiety and dealing with anxiety in my life, and learning to celebrate or see the positive things that I have learned how to do because of my anxiety. So my survival mechanisms are cleaning and journaling and, watching TV and playing games, because that's how I calm myself down so I can recognize that I am safe. So that's what I have to do. That's what I have to do. So it also helps me to be more gentle with myself for doing those other things that make me not feel so productive, because it is part of dealing with anxiety, living with anxiety. So anyway, that's what I have on celebrating anxiety. Kind of a random thing to celebrate, or way to celebrate, I guess. But I may be doing a few things for the next few days, just about things that I'm not fond of, that mess with my abilities to do things. But it's a part of who I am, and I want to celebrate all of me and not just the things that I like about myself, and also to see how even the things that I don't necessarily like about myself have actually helped me become stronger or better in other ways. So grateful for that. And that's all I have. If you like these videos, you can hit like, subscribe, share with someone else if you think they'll like it too. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude. Find some fun ways to celebrate yourself, and maybe do some writing.